Climate migration in the US is starting. Small steps show the beginning of the move with examples such as taxpayer buyouts for homeowners in flood-prone areas from Staten Island, New York to Houston and New Orleans. In Florida, the state with the most people and property at risk, the state are starting to buy homes, many partially destroyed but some not, in many cases simply to knock them down to make way for the sea and its apparent advance. According to Florida State University demographer Matthew Hauer, by the end of the century, some 13 million Americans will need to move because of rising sea levels. Even in a managed retreat, coordinated and funded at a federal level, the economic disruption could still be on a level with that of the housing crash of 2008. Florida accounts for 40% of the riskiest coastal land in the US, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists, but has done little so far to pull its residents back from the coasts, falling behind states such as New Jersey, North Carolina, and Texas. According to Hauer, around 6 million Floridians will need to move inland by the end of the century, by which point he believes around 80% of the Florida Keys could be underwater. He also states in his paper that 3.5 million people could be flooded in South Florida's Miami-Dade and Broward, the two counties with America's biggest exposed populations. Billy Fleming, a landscape architecture professor at the University of Pennsylvania, notes that the scale of this is almost unfathomable. If we take any of the climate science seriously, we're down to the last 10 to 12 years to mobilize the full force of government and move on managed retreat. If we don't, it won't matter, because much of America will be underwater or on fire. This year, the US Department of Housing and Urban Development has made available $16 billion for climate resilience, its first dedicated fund to strengthen the country against future storms. 9 states, as well as the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, will decide how to use it, whether to put houses on stilts or move people out of the way altogether. 15 years after Hurricane Katrina, Louisiana is still trying to relocate the Native American settlement of around 100 people from the Isle de Jean Charles, a narrow island that has lost 98% of its land over the past 6 decades to climate change. The state is working with a $48 million grant from HUD for buyouts and to help them relocate to a 500-acre sugar farm 40 miles north. New Jersey has a $300 million fund for buyouts and has purchased hundreds of properties since Storm Sandy in 2012, although, like Florida, even more homes have been built on the coast in the meantime. According to the NRDC, Harris County in Texas, ravaged by a series of storms including Harvey in 2017, has done more than 3,000 Federal Emergency Management Agency buyouts, more than any other county in the US. Climate migration is becoming a problem across the globe and is thought to be one of the factors pushing migrants from Central America towards the US. Crop shortages in Guatemala, for example, are leaving locals, particularly in the country's western highlands, starving and in extreme poverty. The World Bank estimates that climate refugees, people migrating to escape the effects of the warming climate, may number over 150 million by 2050. On a more positive note, however, they also suggest that concerted action, including a global effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, could reduce this worst-case scenario by as much as 80%.